You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from AnVi Invest. For more information, go to anviinvest.com.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social. Today we have a local guest from Laguna. Welcome to the show, Imer.
Thank you, Vince. Happy to be here. Love what you guys did with the studio. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Great place you got here.
It's been good, man. I feel like there's a couple things we could do more, but if you got ideas, you're a builder, so I mean, tell us what to. He's like, just tear it down. We're gonna start.
This is a garbage house.
Well, speaking of, I hate to give it away, but we like to have our guests just do a quick little 30, 60-second intro, your basic, story.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I'm the owner of Empress Builders. We do custom single-family residential homes for clients in Laguna Beach. We just opened up a second office in Malibu as well.
Nice, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And we specialize in luxury, high-end coastal homes. So we try to really hit the nail on the head as far as from a finishes standpoint. I mean, everything is top-notch. If someone can send us a Pinterest and send us a little photo blog, we can deliver that image. So we really hang our hat on delivering quality to the best level possible.
Wow. That's awesome.
But I didn't tell you about myself. So I'll tell you about myself. Yeah. So I'll take it way back, but I grew up in New York City, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And even at a young age, I've kind of been, I've gotten exposure on the multifamily side. I know you guys do a real estate podcast, but I grew up in a building that my dad owned, and he taught us all of the core competencies of hard work. And he instilled it in us, so much so that at the young age of 12, we were hired help on his staff there. So we were doing apartment turnovers.
He paid you?
Sort of.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, when I was working for my dad, no one's paying nobody. You're just earning your keep. All right, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so we me and my brothers, we all got together, and let's say an apartment unit came for rent. You want to limit that turnaround. It's not like it is today where you have the advantage of short-term rentals. You could kind of just do a quick clean and move out. We've had tenants in there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years sometimes. And, by the time they move out of those apartments, I mean, they're shot. I mean, you've probably seen it in some of your real estate holdings where you go in and you're adjusting everything, new flooring, new drywall patches. We had this one tenant that they were storing all of their waste in one of their closets, and we had to clear that out.
Man. Talk
about bummer.
Yeah.
But I grew up in it, and I was fortunate enough, and this is why I consider myself a second generation builder. We had the advantage of really seeing these projects through to the finish line. And my dad really held us to a level of standard that was above what the market called for. You always have to be above what the market calls for if you want to get ahead. So he held us to this level standard where it really was like, hey, no, there's like streaks from the roller you were using on the paint. You got to go back and do another coat.
I have been guilty of that many times. My stepdad calls me out. Yeah, what's that?
So we would go back out, and our time to do the work, obviously we're going to school, and his primary focus was like, hey, stay in school, focus on school, get your degrees. But from Friday evening to Sunday night, we would go 3 days in a row basically and do these apartment turnovers. And sometimes we'd have them turned over on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many brothers did you have?
I've got 3 older brothers and a younger brother and younger sister. But my younger brother was a little bit too young to get good exposure, at least early on. So we just had him like painting a door, and then we would just go over with the roller.
Sure. Gotta give him something to do. That's a lot of helping hands though, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Your dad was, he's really making an investment when he had kids.
Yeah. Well, he sent us to all top schools. Cool. I was fortunate enough, I went to a private high school. I went to a private college. He really instilled the power of hard work. And, he reciprocated, like, you said, were you paid? No, I wasn't paid, but he covered some things for school. And obviously I always had
out for soda
gear.
pop or whatever. Yeah.
I always had some new gear on,
Right.
So I think from that standpoint, like we were always very happy. I couldn't ask for anything more from my dad. Like, to this day, I'm overly thankful for every opportunity he's given me. Not to mention I got this trades. Like I know this stuff, and if a roof is leaking, I could find the leak, if,
Nice.
Granted that hasn't happened yet, in 7 years of business, we haven't had a roof leak. So I'm hoping I don't have to get on a ladder, but I will if I need to,
Hire it out, man. It's dangerous, bro. Make sure they're insured and bonded. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. So there's so much to peel back, dude. By the way, I met Imer at an event. Shout out to Christian White, and met a lot of great people there. So thank you so much for. It's been a couple months now, and I've been kind of pushing you off. I was like, I want this thing to be set up. I want it to be nice. So thank you for waiting. But so much to peel back because I really just barely met you for a second. I think you were a speaker on the panel, and every time you would say something, I'm like, all right, that guy knows what he's talking about. You can quickly tell. I actually had Skylar on as well. She was the insurance chick. Yeah. And so I really know nothing about you. I'm kind of curious. So you grew up in New York and you're helping out dad. He's got tons of apartment buildings, all multifamily.
That's right.
Not to make it about dad, but how did he get started? Like, what's his story?
He's got a great story. So he migrated to the States in 1971.
Okay.
He came over with nothing but the shirt on his back and maybe 40 bucks.
From where?
From Albania.
From Albania.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he migrated over 19 years old. And he had to stop in Italy. There wasn't like a direct visa passport at the time. So he had to stop in Italy for about a year and a half.
Gotcha.
And he went through a church program that sponsored his visa ship.
Got it.
In exchange, then he had to pay back the loan for the visa ship. So he was in Italy for about a year. And his papers came in, and he's telling his boss, like, "Hey, I got the visa to go to the States." And the boss is like, "Please stay. We'll double your salary," because he was working, a pretty tough job out in Italy, and labor intensive. And he's a hard worker. He's a former farmer. My grandfather was a legit farmer on a farm, like most lineages. But my grandfather had 8 kids. So my dad is the youngest of 8 kids, youngest son of 8 kids. And there wasn't much room on the family farm, at least in his mind, to grow. And he's like, well, how am I going to get an opportunity to grow? So his dad gave him 5 years, go work in the States, make some money, and then you're going to come back, get married, have a family. Sure enough, things kind of shifted a little bit. My dad came here in 1971 to New York City. And he worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time. That's not like today's, people who are doing like side hustles or whatever. These are real labor skill jobs. Like he's doing cleaning company. He's doing labor foreman. He is working at a restaurant, picking up busboy gigs. So literally he was on the clock, Monday through Sunday for about 80, 90 hours a week.
Wow.
And he just hustled.
Came here with nothing.
He lived in an apartment with 7 other men, and they all split the rent. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. And whenever he came home, like some of the guys would go, and how guys can be, like they want to relax and have a good time, play a card game, have some drinks. Whenever my dad was home, they were like, oh, don't disturb Mel. My dad's name's Malim. They're like, don't disturb Mel because he's sleeping, and he slept for 4 hours and then got back on the train and got back to the city and got back to work. Real, I call it old school hard work. This is a time where, you don't really have the systems that we have today, like AI and ways of managing multiple things and getting multiple things done. He's on the clock working. So he stored all his money. And after about 6 years of storing all his money, he got together with his brother and 2 partners who are their brother-in-laws, and they purchased the building. That was the building I grew up in, 1977.
Wow, the first building he bought?
First building he bought. I grew
in Brooklyn.
I grew up in, yeah. And
That's
the name
amazing.
of that building was called the Empress. So that's where we get our name, Empress Builders. It's
That's cool.
Longevity thing, and it's been a sweetheart asset for my family and my dad, and
He still has it.
he still has it.
What
yeah.
a legend.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. How did he have the money to buy that building?
It was him, his brother, and they had 2 partners who were my uncle's brother-in-laws. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
he went in,
they
4
pulled
guys.
4 guys.
Just
and
split it 4 ways?
Split it 4 ways.
Nice.
And they also were all skilled labor. So
Nice.
they took care of all the repairs,
Awesome.
did everything at the bare minimum. And this is, in the 70s, labor was relatively high,
Mhm.
kind of like it is now, where you couldn't really find a plumber that was going to do it for low, because everyone's cost is what it is, right? So
Yeah.
they could do the plumbing, they could do the electrical, they can fix the refrigerator, whatever they had to do, they were doing. And they got their start. So in that same year, in 1977, my dad was still working his other jobs. He didn't quit his other jobs. So he's still working 2 additional jobs. One of them was at a bank, and he would clean the bank after hours. And he ends up going into the bank after hours, and sure enough, the vault is open. And he sits back and he looks, he's like, there's 2 suitcases filled with cash. He opens it up. He's like, oh my God, this is crazy. I mean, it was probably 1977. It was close to, I want to say $200,000 in cash in those suitcases.
Wow.
In the open bank vault after hours. He's the only one in there. And he made it a point to tell us the story, and it's 100% factual. And he goes to his car, calls up my mom, and he's like, hey, I found 200 grand in the suitcases. I'm the only one here. I can easily get it out. This is back when they didn't have cameras everywhere or motion
Right.
sensors.
So you could have just walked away with it.
Could have just walked away with it. And my mom's like, take the money. Take the money. Why don't you take the money? And my dad looks and he thinks about like his past year. He just bought a building. He's the only one on staff at this hour. He's like the most likely suspect for this heist,
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's like no way, like there's no way, like this will get back to me. I'm going to get, in big trouble. And he went back and he left the suitcases right where they were, called the police, called the branch manager. The police arrived, New York City cops, 1977. They're like, oh yeah, just leave the suitcase with me.
Yeah, there we go.
He's like, I don't think so. I'm going to wait till the branch manager comes.
Right.
And then when they come, I'll be able to leave. So he waited, 20, 30 minutes. The branch manager comes out and she's like, oh my God, thank you so much for calling us. God forbid this ended up in the
That'd
wrong
been a
hands.
big 200 grand in the 70s.
It's like millions now.
Yeah.
Millions?
Inflation. Yeah.
Ooh, crazy. So he ended up, and he hears like the side talk from one of the cops, and they're like, what an idiot. He should have just took the money. There's no way they would trace him. And he's just like, nah, I'm going to do things the right way. So he always taught us, he instilled those values of like, do things the right way. Hard work pays for itself.
Love
and he's proof to that, and he's done really well for himself in real estate. Ended up getting a 10% loan on that deal in 77, which we think rates are high today. I mean, 10% is crazy.
Yeah.
Think about that. You're just paying down interest. That's all you're doing for a decade. And that's what he did. And he sweat. And I remember the days, when I was growing up, when the mortgage note came out and we would have to go to the bank after 3:00 after the cutoff. I don't know if you guys remember this when you were younger, but bank hours were shorter. They didn't have the extended hours until 5, but you could drop a deposit after the 3 and it would clear the next day. So sometimes we'd have to do that. Full disclosure. I mean, you talk about like, your upbringing and how that shapes your life. You never want to get into a position where you're doing that, but when it's a big investment, those bills are big. I mean, that's a $50,000 check that goes out every month to the banks. And if you need another 10 grand or another day for the rents to come in to cover that note, you're going to squeeze, and you got to figure out a way to get it. So that's what he did.
Bro, you don't have to tell us that. We're literally doing that right now. He's sending 5 grand. I'm sending 10 grand. It's just like waiting to clear to pay all the bills.
Yeah, we're just like squeezed.
Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, it's part of your industry, with real estate, and even banks have gotten more forgiving than they used to be to some degree. You can negotiate with a bank. You could say, hey, give me a interest only note for 2 years. Back in the day, it was 5 years and that's it. And if you missed a month, goodbye building. I mean, imagine that, putting all your equity into something and then it just disappearing. But fortunately enough, we saw a lot of good things along the path where, so then he bought out 2 of his partners, and they did well in real estate as well. And, God bless them. Those are distant relatives. But him and now my uncle, they built this equity pool and they levered it and they refied and put it into a new building and refied and put it into a new building and refied and put it into a new building. And eventually there was enough equity there so he could help us out with college, which we appreciate, handsomely, as is, his kids. And, my dad's the hardest worker I know.
And so you started working at 12, kind of learning the value of hard work, seeing the fact that your dad has built something out of nothing from hard work, but also being smart and like understanding buying buildings. Like, I don't know, I grew up really poor, around a lot of poor people, if I can be honest. And no one would consider buying a building. Like, how did he even have that in his head, like, to do that?
I think it stems from his my grandfather, and my grandfather had farms. He owned them. He owned the land, and this is at the time it was a communist country that he's running in, but you still had some land plays, and unfortunately, because of communism, we lost some even more valuable land at the time back in the old country. But long story short, he always had the ownership mentality and he always thought ahead and saved a little bit every few years and bought the next lot and bought the next lot and bought the next lot.
So he had a little bit of tutelage from his father.
For sure. Yeah.
Assets.
So yeah, it must run in the family, and you kind of see the value long term. If you hold it for long enough, it's worth more.
So he already knew that from his father. That's great. Yeah. And now have you taken that mantle from your father as well? Like what's going on there?
I have. I wish I've done more with it. My personal holdings, I'm open to sharing that with you, but I do own a triplex in Laguna Beach. It started as a duplex, but we added an ADU to it. So that was pretty cool. And we did it within, 6 or 8 months. So it was a really quick turnaround for Laguna. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the permitting process.
6 to 8 months, you built a brand new unit?
We did a brand new unit and also complete remodel gut.
Like the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing.
That's insane.
And it's beautiful. We did an owner unit upstairs. It's a two bedroom upstairs, but all high-end finishes. And
meanwhile, we're waiting 2 years for a solar permit.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're dealing with a city right now on a particular asset we have. And yeah, just the city is what it is. And we're looking to come out really clean from it because of certain laws. But yeah, man, it's such a grind. And it's very scary when you get that letter from the city, like, hey, shut it all down. You're like, oh my God, it's the city of this. So yeah, Vince was the savior on that. He's just such a nerd. He discovered there was actually a bill that had passed. But point is red tape. How'd you even get through all the red tape in Laguna, especially? Like, that's got to be insane. Who do you know? What's going on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as an organization, we've been in Laguna now for going on 7 years. And we did it very organically. And, my background prior to single family custom residential, I was doing commercial work. So I was building ground up buildings. I did a mid-rise in downtown LA and a high-rise in downtown LA. I did a Ford Penske dealership down in La Mesa. I did a high-rise in Jersey City. And I checked all of those ego boxes, you get out into the real world and you're like, hey, what am I going to do with my career? So from a commercial building standpoint, I feel like there's nothing more that I need to do in order to be like, yep, I'm a builder, and I know how to get stuff done. And we've done over 1 million square feet of concrete. I've personally poured over 1 million square feet of concrete, not actual finishing, but part of those teams, right? I was a senior project manager managing these large budgets. They range for anywhere from 35 million up to 212 million, so these are massive scale projects. So I get out to Laguna and you look around, there's not many high rises, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's
like none.
Zero. Yeah. We look and we're looking at our business plan. We're like, what we've done is not really what we can do here. And this is where we want to be. I'm raising a young family. I've got 4 kids under the age of 6. And we look at our business plan. We're like, where do we want to be? And the business will take care of itself. When you have a certain level of skill set, and you're committed to that discipline and hard work and all of those good values, you could pivot pretty easily. And that's what I did. So I took my experience in, master project management to now custom home building. The only difference really, I would say is for custom home building, the main difference is the level of quality. Our level standard of quality has only been elevated. So if you want to deliver quality, you got to go into custom home building. If you want to do production, stick with multifamily. So as an organization, in order to have that ethos, right, you have a company that lives and breathes and dies off for quality. You really have to, you have to believe in it. I believe in it. So now you're growing a new company in order to get that message out. How do you do that? How would you guys start your business plan for a single family custom residential, having limited prior experience in it?
So do I have the skill to do it? The actual work?
Yeah. What would be your business plan? Like who would you approach? Like, hey,
I'll talk to my dad if I were you. I'm like, hey, Dad, give me all your contacts. Done.
Yeah. But a little bit about who you know. It really depends on the scenario. If what I'm thinking is what you're saying is I know I have the skill set. I can bring the quality. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You just got to figure out the marketing.
Yeah. Just the marketing piece. So
what year is it?
2018.
Yeah. I would hire who I've got now. She would just make me very easily defined on Google.
All right, that's great. So as a local company, we went out and we went boots on the ground. We started knocking on doors, architects. So architects give us about 65 to 75% of our leads.
That's the move.
So we knock on their doors, and I'll tell you straight up, we got laughed out of the room. And these are
you didn't have a company yet, really. You had a company, but no proof of
no proof of skill, right? So we got laughed out of the room, and sure enough, you fast forward and you put in the work and you find the opportunities, and your ears to the grindstone. You're constantly looking for that next opportunity. You'll find it. So I approached another general contractor in Laguna Beach. He's been doing it for about 50 years. And I said, happy to name him. I don't know if I'm not going to say his last name, but his name's Al. And I said, hey, Al, we're a new general contractor in town. And he's like, hey, give me a call. I might have something for you. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is my competition. But like in Laguna, when you get to a certain level of quality, there is no competition. There is no competition.
So your goal from the outset was to get like top level luxury quality?
I learned that. So as we're taking on our first project, I come in with my commercial background, my commercial mindset. Mm-hmm. And the owner's rep, his name is Wayne. He's a killer, like in a good way. He's very, very informed, does his research, knows his details, knows what he wants. And I come up with like my schedule, and he laughed at my schedule. He's like, dude, there's no way this is going to take 6 months. I was like, yeah, you give me these answers tomorrow. He's like, I'll get you some answers in maybe a week or two. So it's like a different way of thinking entirely. You know, when you're dealing with quality, you're dealing with quality clients. He's got his own question answer chain. So so just to take it back a step, as an organization, so we got into those rooms with the architects, and they're like, hey, what do you have? What's your proof of concept? And 7 years later, we got a job with that architect.
Nice.
7 years later, we have earned the right to bid on those projects and get those opportunities. And if I didn't put into work, or I didn't knock on his door 7 years ago, then I may not be in this position today where I have that project.
And he's like your main lead funnel?
Just one of them. So
one.
So yeah, but I mean, these are, Laguna architects are not like a standard architect. And I give them so much credit because, for one, it's the hardest process in the country to go through, the design review board process of Laguna Beach. It's the hardest and most lengthy process. You have to deal with neighbor concerns. You have to deal with mass and scale. You have to deal with aesthetic concerns. You have to deal with privacy issues. Every other place I built in New York, I've built in New Jersey, I built in Miami, I built in LA, has been easier than that.
Wow.
Do you have to deal with the Communist Coastal Commission? Oh, no, not them.
Yeah. So funny enough.
Oh, no.
So funny enough, this first project that we were just mentioning, we're still there. Mm-hmm. We're still there. And the big change, we ended up having to modify glass railing. They wanted to install a new glass railing with no edge railing and adjust the detailing for that. They had an existing glass railing, but because it was modified, we had to submit the change to the city. The city flagged it. It's like, this needs to go to coastal. 1 year and a half later,
here we go.
Just for a glass railing, they added a year and a half to the entire timeline of the project. Wow. But we got the approval, and it took time, and we're happy about it. But we had to go through all the hurdles. We had to do a coastal edge. It's oceanfront, so. Mm-hmm. We had to do a coastal edge setback determination, which took geotechnical and civil surveying just so we can install this glass railing. Think about that. I mean, that's like a 20 plus K plus another 10 for the architect. That's a $30,000 cost impact.
Are we considering holding costs? Is that part of this?
I couldn't consider holding costs. I know that house is, probably worth 20 plus million right now. So it's a whole different
You're talking $1 million in holding costs.
Wow.
It's a whole different beast. So to jump back, Al was like, hey, give me a call. I might have something for you. He's like, hey, we got this unique client, and my partner and I we're not really considering this project, but we think you might be a good fit for it. So I'm like, wow, my first lead in Laguna is coming from a general contractor who in my mind at the time was a competitor, which now I realize nothing short of a mentor,
Nice.
But I bumped into him and I gave him a call, and we talked to the owner, and this guy's tough as nails. So he wants to weed us out and see what we're about. So he's asking us 1,000,001 questions, and we're answering them all properly, and we're giving him all the info he needs. So we bid it, just the foundation of this lower level addition, about 6.5 years ago now. We bid this foundation. It's about $25,000 bid. And we didn't have a sub lined up. This is just based on, hey, this is what the market calls for. And we get the sub to bid it, and he comes in and he's at like 22. And I'm like, all right, great. $3,000 profit. That's great. I'm happy with that. This will be a good opportunity. The guy shows up on day one, realizes the house is oceanfront, changes his proposal. He's like, sorry, I got to go back. There's going to be more concrete involved. And he just makes up some BS excuse. And I know it's BS because I know I can do it for cheaper. Mm-hmm. How do I know? Well, I did it for cheaper. So I took that owner's mentality and I said, Wayne, and this is a client we have to this day, and we've done multiple projects with him at this point. I said, Wayne, I'm going to honor that price. I'm going to do this by myself. So we dug the hole. We laid the rebar, we tied the rebar, we put down the visqueen, we compacted the footings, and we got all our inspections. And me and one of our other employees at the time, we poured that entire thing. It was a 20 by 20 pad, nothing major. We ended up hiring a finisher to come in for $400, and we did it. And we did it for substantially less than even what the bid was. I think all in cost was about 15, but I didn't count my labor. If you counted my labor, I was probably at negative minimum wage, but we had to get it done. Yeah. You honor your word to your client. Mm-hmm. That's what we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you have to do whenever you're a business owner, though. Like, it just stops with you.
That's right.
Like, if you've got to suck it up and roll up your sleeves and get greasy, like we've been doing that the past couple Sundays, driving up to Desert Hot Springs, got a turnover, and but there's a part of us that likes it. We're lucky in that we're business partners and friends. So, we talk business.
It's not going to work if you were not friends. There's no chance.
100%. Yeah. That's really cool. Vince, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to go back to your timeline. So you have some experience with your dad when you were a kid. And then as you got in your early 20s, you wanted to start this company, which is building. At this point, did you own any real estate at all? Other than the minority stake you might have had already?
Yeah, no real estate at all. And so the main pivot was when we came out to Laguna Beach and we made a decision, my wife and I, to buy our first home.
Was that the triplex?
No, actually, before the triplex, it was just a single family home in Arch Beach Heights of Laguna Beach. It's kind of the, I'd say it's a more economical version to break in. And we ended up getting this great opportunity at the time. I think it's 2019. And we picked up a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ocean view home for 1,225, which seems like so minimal at this point. But at the time, we were like sweating bullets, like, hey, can we make this work? And we had a killer rate. It was like sub 4s, like just easy house.
And you were already making high enough income that you can afford the $1-2 million home.
You know, my wife was, I was fortunate enough that she carried the burden during the startup phase.
Okay.
And for about 2.5, 3 years, it was just her. And we were living off
Quick
of her.
message for the listeners, Mary Wright.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife, Carly, we've got 4 kids. She's phenomenal. Can't say enough good things about her. And she really held down the family's finances for, 3 full years where, as a startup company, you're just, most of it is out the door. I mean, we were, I'd say about 130 in the hole between marketing and business startup cost and office spacing. And we're about 130 in the hole before we even turned a profit. So you have to see things through. So general contractors fail at a rate of 90% within the first 2 years. So it's not an easy type of business to start up. And I knew that going into it. So I had a really defined business plan, and I stuck with it, and I stuck with it, and I stuck with it.
And you had the 130 in cash to spin it?
I had 130 in cash. I saved up. So I was before I started my own company, I was working for commercial builders.
Sure.
I worked throughout the country on different high-rise projects.
Is that how you learned the trade?
I learned it. So what I do now, I'd say I learned more through my dad, where I was working for him from the age of 12, till in my 20s. More of those disciplines apply more toward what I do now. But when I was working for commercial builders, I was getting paid well. I left a $200,000+ salary a year to go and start my own company. Where at the time, before I started my company, I was doing a 36-story in Jersey City. I mean, that's not an easy job by any means, but I'm the senior project manager, $165 million budget, that everything fell on me. I always take an ownership approach to anything I do, even when I was working for people, and you could call them all of my past bosses and the owners of the companies. I think they'll agree with that statement. So I took it personally. So if someone was like, hey, no, we're going to do a change order for this, I'm like, no, you're not. You gotta honor this agreement we have, and I hold their feet to the fire. So I always took that mentality. So I try to save up as I'm going through all of those jobs. I saved a ton of money on my own personal savings. And then before that, I was actually working for corporate America for about 4 years, right out of school. And this was probably the most deflating piece of my career to this day. And a lot of it tied to my schooling. So I studied structural engineering in school. And part of your licensing requirements as a structural engineer is you have to work under another structural engineer after school for 4 years in order to qualify for your exam. So I always had this vision like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I committed, before knowing what the entire trade was about, structural design, I committed that timeline, and I spent 4 years at this big mega corporation just working on designs, structural designs. And pay wasn't great. I covered the bills, but pay wasn't great. And I looked at myself, and I was looking in the mirror 4 years in, and I get a knock at the door, phone call from, it was Tishman AECOM, which was their construction arm. Superstorm Sandy. Do you guys remember Superstorm Sandy in the Northeast? It flooded 13,000. Yeah, 13,000 homes got flooded.
What year was that?
2012, 2013.
Sounds
something like that.
familiar, yeah.
And I get the phone call, and they're like, "Hey, we need some assistance with this, hurricane FEMA relief. We need local people that can jump on." And I get my former manager, who's a great guy, Stu. He's like, "Hey, Imer, you want to give this a try?" And I was like, "Sounds fun. Yeah, let's go for it." Not knowing what to expect, I go into a room, and there's 450 laborers. It's me, a handful of other management type staff, and that's it. And we had to come up with a game plan of assessing each home. And at the end of every night, we would be on the phone with the New York City mayor's office At the time, it was Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and we would give him an update. How many houses were flooded that you checked off? How many of them had heat, hot water, and electric? So one of the lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina that we implemented into New York City Rapid Repair Program was that you want to get homeowners back into their house as quick as possible. So what did that look like? You had to pump out the water. So fire department got their pump and pumped out the water. You had to assess any of the critical systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So making sure they had hot water, they had heat, they had electricity to their house so they could move back in. And then you had to get rid of any mold. So that's like, at the time, I think they were just plain bleach and testing.
Mm-hmm.
So, very basic, but within, it was 2 full weeks, Sunday through Sunday, 2 full weeks that I worked continuously. It was from 4 a.m. to, I'd say 10 p.m. I was at the site. And during that time, I became the lead for that entire operation. And my level of like excitement went from like a level 2 to a level 11. I mean, this was like, I was on cloud 9, just being able to be the lead and be in charge and be able to manage and direct and guide. It was like I was elevated to a different pathway. And I felt like my inside spirit really got exposed. So funny enough, my boss at that operation, he ended up giving me a shout about 4 or 5 months later. And he's like, hey, you want to get together for a phone call? I think it was LinkedIn, which LinkedIn's great, by the way. I love LinkedIn. And I get on a call with him. He's like, hey, we have this opportunity. We're starting an office down in Miami. You want to come and work with us? In the meantime, you're going to be on another, you'll be with a sister company by the time our project comes up and running. I was like, that sounds exciting. So I ended up getting an opportunity to be a lead super right-hand man in South Miami for 2 22-story towers and a 7-story parking garage. And that same feeling I had during those 2 weeks of Superstorm Sandy when we were doing those assessments, I had that for a full 2 years. And every day I would go into work, and every single day I'd work a 12, 14-hour shift because I felt like there was more to do and I wanted to do everything for that job to be successful. We ended up building that 2 22-story towers and a 7-story parking garage for about $78 million in 2012, 2013, 2014, I think it finished. That owner just sold that property, great developer out of Miami, for $210 million. So I love when my clients do well. And I take that passion even to this day, even with single family custom residential. If we're taking on your project, we're going to add value to it. And it may not necessarily be the case for some of these ultra luxury high-end homes, but we've had some really good success stories. One success story we had was in Newport Coast. This one beautiful gated community project. They had some architect from LA working on it. I'm not going to name names, but if he's listening today, he knows who he is. He started the project, got through maybe some demo, maybe a little bit of rough plumbing and electrical. And he was about $2.5 million into the budget, did nothing for this owner. And we get the call. We get the call. So I pick up the phone. They're like, hey, we need some help. This owner is working on a project. And they send us the drawings. I look at it. I'm like, all right, let's go take a look. We walk the site. I mean, this thing is, you talk about perfect ocean views. It's got perfect ocean views, perfect coast views, perfect house, perfect driveway. And they're adding this addition and doing a full remodel gut to the entire property. So we take it on, and it's already basically over budget because it shouldn't cost more than $2.5 million to do a remodel in that marketplace for what they were doing. It was like a minor addition, maybe about 800 square feet. We take on the project. We finish it for another $2 million. That's the real cost of what it should have taken. Because again, the original architect did nothing. He bought that property for about 13.5 in 2017. He just sold it for $32 million. It broke one of the records in Newport.
Wow.
So he won. He's happy.
Right.
We're happy.
Got all of his money back. But yeah, that's the power of appreciation and the single factor that's really helped this company to survive. So we definitely, I mean, not Newport kind of money, but oh yeah, thanks.
That's good.
But yeah, that concept alone has helped us get out unscathed despite making a lot of blunders, hiring the wrong, say, architect or handyman contractor, which we've definitely done. In fact, just side tangent, I think learning to hire is one of the biggest skills of all time if you're going to be a business owner. And it's also one of the hardest skills to develop because there's no, at least in my experience, there was no class on it. There was no training. It's I just heard on a podcast, separate podcast, that he says, I like to hire for the soul and train for the role. And I was like, bam, I wish I remembered who that was, but yeah. So
There's definitely a lot of merit to that, especially with construction personnel, because anyone can clock in Monday through Friday, put in their time and get some stuff done. But it's the passion. It's the caring about the project. It's the going the extra mile or thinking about the next steps that is done on your spare time, and it's thoughtful. We've been super fortunate on our hires as an organization. Granted, we've had some bad apples. We'll talk about those guys, but
sure.
The team we run with, I mean, they're lions. You know, you got to surround yourself with A players. And if you can't do that, you can't be successful. Yeah. And
you won't scale. You won't grow.
Yeah. So
what's your, just to kind of, since this is top of mind, what are some of your strategies for hiring correctly now? Because you've got some bad hires, you've got some good hires. What are some of the things that you do differently? Maybe you would have said, hey, to your like 18-year-old self, just so you know, you're going to hire one day, don't do this. Yeah. What would that be?
I think I've been turned off by two, one former employee, one past interviewer. They both came from recommendations from their dad. And it's kind of a tell, because it tells me that they're a little bit irresponsible. And granted, this may not be the case for everybody, but it tells me that they're a little bit irresponsible and they don't care enough for themselves to get out there and learn it and earn it for themselves. Got it. So we just had an employee that applied, and we had an interview set up. He calls about 5 minutes before the interview, like, hey, I can't make it. 5 minutes before the interview, he's like, oh, I'm just not feeling well. Well, if you weren't feeling well, you wouldn't be feeling well the hour before the interview. Like, hey, give someone the heads up.
That's why I have a lighter in my office. You just set that resume right on fire.
Yeah. So we didn't give him a second interview. We didn't give him a chance because, you know, look, everyone who wants something is going to be there. Yep. I mean, granted, I'd appreciate if he really was sick that he would have told us and he wouldn't have come in, but that would have happened the day before or morning of.
Yeah, 5 minutes before is unexcusable.
Unexcusable. He just wasn't
That's
willing
just
to come out. Yeah, yeah. So
it was me.
So that was one case, and then we had another of a former laborer of ours that was working for us for about 2 or 3 years. Hardest working guy, showed up on time, got everything done. He's like, hey, my son's just finished in high school. Do you want to bring him in? I was like, yeah, we have this amazing internship program where we bring on the people for 3 months and then they get to shift. Every 6 months, they get to go to a different aspect of the business. They start in the field. Then from the field, they come back into the office. We teach them about project management. We teach them about reading plans, learning how to read plans. And then after 6 months, then they go back out into the field, and then they're like an assistant superintendent. They're helping the foreman or the lead project manager on the job. And then they're learning from them how to run a job, how to manage a job. And then they'll go back out into the office and then learn how to bid, learn how to put together estimates. So we have this 2-year curriculum set out. So this gentleman was about 6 months in, and then we made the pivot to the office, and I'm giving him all these to-dos like, hey, get your signature handle on your email, send an email to this person, make sure you give so-and-so a call because we need this bid for this upcoming project. And it didn't go anywhere. It was like he was afraid to take those steps. So you kind of circle back like, oh, his dad was doing this for him. He didn't want it for himself. And now I'm in a position now where he still doesn't want it for himself. So I'm like, you know, hey, what do you want to do? And, you know, sure enough, he felt like it wasn't for him. But it took 7 months of investment on our team to try to get that out of him. And Unfortunately for us, we're on the losing side of that. But I also have a good story to tell. I had an executive assistant that worked for me for about a full year, and I could see that she's picking up a lot of the stuff that I'm missing. You talk about attention to detail. You talk about a soul. Talk about character. I mean, this person really thinks on their feet and does the project. So they were shadowing me every task I was doing. It got to a level where they were just doing the task because they knew it had to get done. They were reading the email, replying on my behalf, making sure it was getting delivered. I was like, you know what? This person would be a great assistant project manager. Signed her up. She's an assistant project manager. She did that for 2.5 years. And just recently we promoted her to be a full-time project manager.
Nice.
The best one we have on our team at the current moment, can handle any project of any scale, can talk to clients, can client interface. Those are the types of quality people that you get lucky in a way.
Sure.
But we're fortunate enough to have invested that time early on to where now it's like at a level where, hey, if she could easily go and work for someone else and potentially make more money. I don't know. I mean, we pay our team very well.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, that was worth it. Right now we're reaping the rewards. I could go and take a, 1-2 week vacation and not feel like I'm burdened by these projects. She's got it covered.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what were some of the markers, just so we can kind of move on, but what were some of the markers that you saw early on, or maybe your hiring team was like, yeah, I think that's the one that proved true?
Yeah. Type A personalities, I think are vital in construction. You've got to want it, what's the term? You got to eat the worm, first thing in the morning, get up,
Eat that frog.
Eat that worm, go. Yeah, eat the frog. And she does it every single morning. She'll roll up, get to her office. She doesn't miss a day. She doesn't show up late. If she does, I get a text 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
She'll let me know. But it's like, that's what the role entails. But like, I didn't know it until she started working for me. But like when we're interviewing her, you could tell polite, friendly, can be client interfacing, very vital with custom home building. We're constantly talking to clients and assuring them that everything's going well. And, they see the progress. We're giving them updates. We're asking questions. We're delivering on the things we say we're going to do. So I think that's a vital part of it. But also it's like, you have to attack the work. I mean, we send 100+ emails, text messages, phone calls a day. Every single person on my team, that's the expectation. That's the level. You deal with A players, you got to expect like they're going to put in what you would put in.
Right.
And if you set that example for them early on, I think they're willing to carry their weight. They understand the stuff has to get done and the clients are expecting us to deliver for them.
So you're saying lead by example.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Vince, you got some asset questions?
Yeah. So, good conversations about the business and stuff. So, so you started this few years back, right? And then now, when did you start buying stuff for yourself, or did you, at some point, you bought your home, right? And then what happened next?
Yeah. So I kind of treat those. I treat my business and what I do personally independently. I don't want there to be any any crossover, because the last thing I want is for any client to get the wrong idea of like, hey, what do I do for a living? I'm a custom home builder for clients for a living. That's my primary source of income. That's what I do for clients, and I care about them. Also, simultaneously, as a person, me and my wife, we invest in properties. We'll buy, we bought our single family home back in 2019, and the market was the winner for us. I mean, we ended up trading it at a significant multiple just because we got in at the right time before COVID and this work from home craze happened. And Laguna's continued to appreciate. It's not like there's been any lull since 2019. There hasn't been. Even to this day, there's nothing that's slowing down in that market. So we were fortunate enough. We saw we had this big chunk of equity sitting in our asset. We could have refinanced, and rates were relatively low at the time. But we said, hey, no, why don't we take this and pivot it? So we took the cash, and we were renting for a while, and we pivoted into this duplex option. And total fixer upper. We picked it up for like 135 in Laguna Beach, walking distance to the beach, ocean views.
Footage?
Total square footage now is 1,559 square feet. When we picked it up, it was about 1,200 square feet.
Sure.
And we ended up adding this ADU to this wreck of a garage. I mean, this thing was 100 years old.
Mhm.
Everything about it was 100 years old. It was in rough shape.
And that close to the ocean. So,
yeah. Yeah.
so are you
leaks.
just tearing down to the studs, or what are you doing? How
Yeah.
does that work?
So we went in there and I'm looking at it like how I would build any client's home. I look at it like it's my own home. Hey, what would you do? We took it down to the studs. We took down all the exterior siding. We reframed a bunch. We ended up adding all new headers to all the windows. We added this footing and foundation and concrete pad on the lowest level for the addition because it was on dirt. That's how old the house was. The garage was on dirt. They didn't even have a slab on grade back then.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it was for horse and carriage back in the day, to be honest with you. So we ended up doing all this work and fixing it up. Definitely spent more money than I wanted to be honest with you, full disclosure. Because coming from the multifamily background, I know a lot could be done with less, but when you're dealing with the deliverable on the aft end with you're selling to a luxury client, you can't cut corners. I mean, everyone can tell the gray floors when they see them, especially luxury clients. They're like, hey, no, like we can't do the vinyl gray floors. That's just not going to fly here. So no offense, by the way. Hopefully that.
Great floors.
Hey, come on, bro.
No, these look great. You got some
podcast over.
You know what? Let's burn this house down. You need a luxury build on it.
But they, especially if you want to deliver at a higher multiple, they have an expectation of like, hey, this is where, this is what it needs to have. It needs to have all these bells and whistles. You need to have a car charger. You need to have patio. You need to have landscaping. You need to have a brand new roof with a 30-year warranty. These are certain things that they look for: new AC systems, new heating systems, and we did everything. And we did it in a quick timeline. So right now we're in the market for like 2.69 million, and we fully expect to get it. I mean, it just appraised at like 2.8. So we're not worried about the purchase. It's more of like, hey, we just don't want to lose out on an opportunity with what's going on in the global macro, which is a whole different story. But I kind of keep my eyes and ears open about what's going on financially.
Wait, the 2.69 is your house?
Yeah.
It's on the market right now?
It's on the market right now, 2.69, and it's beautiful. We did the whole upstairs owner suite unit, custom cabinets, custom vanities, custom tops. Like everything is perfect. And we had some interest, and we just did a opening on Sunday, and we had a bunch of really interested buyers. So we're hoping we'll get an offer here in the next few weeks.
What are you guys going to do with the cash?
We've had some. My wife and I have had some, debates. She really wants a house, so the multifamily side of me is fighting that, but at the same time, it's the right thing to do. You got to pick a point. I don't know. You guys have any kids?
No kids.
Yeah. So I think that this is a part of like me where I'm learning through my experience as a father, where there's a certain necessity and there's a certain requirement to be able to have that house, to have that kind of stronghold and have that stability. And my wife is like, she wants a house. So she's going to get a house, because whether or not it pencils financially, it's going to pencil for my family, and that's what we're going to do with it. Yeah. So
why would you sell that house? You buy the beach already, right? I mean, what else can you do? And you're already
because it's multifamily. She's not into it.
I think if we were to add a stairway to the lower level, I think it'd be more palatable. There's just no yard. And we've got 3 active boys.
No lot space.
Bunch of boys.
Yeah, no lot space. We got 3 active boys and a active daughter, and they're chomping at the bit to burn that energy. And in order to do so, we're a street side. We're scootering in the street, which actually isn't that bad in South Laguna. I don't know if you guys are familiar with South Laguna, but it's honestly like a hidden gem in Laguna. Most of the houses are very close together, and they're older. So you have an older generation of people that are holding on to their homes. And over the years with the sea weather, they've been dilapidated. There's a lot to keep up with. It's expensive to do any kind of remodeling or siding. So some of the homes on our block are in not as good shape as ours. Ours is brand new. But for South Laguna, where it's located, the zip code it's in, the school district it's in, And then the future opportunity there, I mean, our same house can be a $4 million house in Corona Del Mar, and it offers the same equivalent lifestyle and life. Not to mention, I walk there every morning. I walk my dog in the morning and the evening. It's so quiet. I mean, for beach,
Can't put a price tag on that.
You can't put a price tag on that. I mean, you can hear a pin
So
drop.
you want to be in South Laguna? You want to stay in South Laguna?
If we could find the right house with the right yard, I'm happy to stay in South Laguna. It's just with, the way things have gone with real estate, do I think I'm going to get a 135 steal again?
Sure.
Probably not. I think those days are gone.
Yeah.
Just build your own home, bro. Come on.
I would, but the lots are starting at like 900K.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of a bird in there. But yeah, we've been fortunate enough. We've also acquired a piece of land to go along with that development conversation. We've acquired a piece of land in North Laguna. It's about 4 acres. And this thing is pretty gnarly. It's appraised at like 10.
What are you going to do with that land?
10.8. It's buildable. So we'll eventually take it through design review board and get the approvals for it. But that takes time and money and effort.
Right.
And, it's a substantial amount of money just to go through DRB.
4 acres?
4 acres.
How much was it?
It just got appraised at 10.8.
Well, how much did you buy it for?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
It was a sweetheart deal. We caught it off market. It was through
And
like
where
a
was
friend
it?
of
In
a friend.
Laguna?
In Laguna, yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, we got lucky. But it's one of those things like you have to be in the right place at the right time. And
Sure.
I was committing the time to all of these organizations in town and
Right. Making the connections.
making the connections.
Yeah.
This sweetheart of a gentleman, he passed away a few months ago. May he rest in peace, Harry. He came to me when he heard about this land. He's like, I know somebody. I met this guy. We've been doing the car show with him every year. And the car show is through the Rotary organization of Laguna. He's like, let me ask him if he'd be interested in this thing. He shows up and he's like, hey, there's this 4 acre property for sale. And we just sold our house. I'm like, yes. Yeah, you don't get these opportunities in Laguna. I mean, how many people do you know that have land in Laguna?
Especially 4 acres.
Buildable land.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Come on, you're building your house on that land. What's going on?
I am.
You have 4 acres and 4 kids. Let's go.
we need the current home to sell so we can invest.
What's your cost to build per square foot? Like $200 or?
What is that,
I do it
shack?
myself for free.
Huh?
A doghouse for 200 a square?
So it costs more than that here?
Oh yeah. So
Not including the land, obviously.
Yeah, no, not including the land. So if you want to talk about above grade, because on coastal homes,
Sure.
you get slopes and you get caissons. Sometimes those could cost.
Oh, so you got to put all those like on beach. You got to put those pylons and
That's
stuff?
right. Yeah. So that's a big driver of cost because you have access issues, you have
Sure.
equipment issues, you have to maintain schedule. Just underground to slab can sometimes cost you $1 million. So then you get to the fun part of building.
But let's say you go a little bit inland. Let's forget the beachfront. Like if you're just building in, let's say Laguna Niguel, what does it cost you?
Have you thought about investing in real estate and taking advantage of all of those benefits without any of the work? That is something that AnVi Invest not only provides, but has been providing since its inception. With friends and family, we have built an empire and a system of a wealth generating tool that is giving us and our friends and family that leverage in their life to create true wealth. Go to onvinvest.com for more to see if you qualify. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, great question. There's a little bit of a premium in our coastal region, and a lot of it is driven by the market, subcontractors, also vendors. You take a look at like Ganal Lumber, and they're a great vendor of ours, but the cost of the lumber we buy from them versus if we were to go to somewhere in Inland Empire, it's a 20% premium. Well, because they have to afford the real estate that they're on in Laguna Beach. So there's a logic pattern to that premium. And then you have the subs who have to drive in an extra 30 minutes to get, to Laguna Beach. Well, there's a premium with that extra commute time.
Yep.
Not many subs of ours live in Laguna Beach. None live in Laguna Beach. So a lot of them come from different towns around the beach. Some come from Inland Empire. Some come from down to San Clemente. Some come from up to LA. And we've been fortunate enough to build this team of really kick-ass subs that really do things cost effectively. And yeah, they may not be the bottom dollar guys because quite frankly, I don't think you could deliver custom for bottom dollar. I haven't seen it done successfully. But if you talk about, if you guys were to go ask the other GCs in town, you're anywhere from 600 to 1,000 a square foot. That's a realistic number. And if you're doing something that's got super high,
and that includes everything, plumbing, everything.
That's right.
All of the stuff,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
You buy the land, you will build it. They will build it for 600, 1,000.
Yeah, excluding case on foundations.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
would be a
let's forget that. Yeah,
just from ground up, basically your slab
Still
up.
a wild number too.
Yeah, that's a wild number, bro.
Here's another wild number. So let's say if someone were to buy something for $800 or $900 a square foot, you buy a home, right?
Dude, you could buy this home for like $750 a square foot with the land.
That's great. Yeah,
That's crazy.
So if you were able to buy that same home in Laguna, you could do an entire project for $650, $700 a square foot. Now your all-in cost is what's that? $1,400 a square foot. You could sell it at $1,750 a square foot. So there's enough room, and this is why I love building in Laguna. Whenever we are working for our clients, nine times out of 10, whatever value we put in, they're making back in equity. They're making
that's the only metric that even matters at the end of the day. So wow. Yeah. Now, how'd you choose Laguna? I personally love Laguna. It's actually my favorite city in the world, by the way. How did you come upon that? Was that the wife? Was that you? Was it?
Yeah. So before we bought a home in Laguna, we were renting for a few years. And this is back in right when I came over to LA after the Miami projects. So 2013, we were renting and we were living in Laguna and we were right up on PCH and all of the noise is blaring and you get all the motorcycles on the weekends and stuff. And
I love the motorcycle guys. The louder, the better, guys.
I pray to baby Jesus every time they all die in a car crash.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So you were there for a couple of years renting.
We were there for a couple of years renting, and this is around the time after those few years. This is around the time I had this awesome ego opportunity to go out to New York, New Jersey City, and build a high rise. So I took it. Like the kid in me growing up, looking up at the Twin Towers, and just mesmerized by their size and their sheer magnitude, was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to build a high rise in the city I live in.
You felt that when you were a kid?
When I was a kid.
Wow.
So when I was 9 years old.
That's cool that you got to fulfill that, man.
When I was 9 years old, my uncle worked at the Trade Center. He was the lead electrician foreman for one of the towers. My uncle. This is my actual uncle.
That's crazy.
And we had the all access pass. We got to go all the way to the top, and he showed us like around all of the office spaces and stuff. And we got up to I remember getting up to the towers and just looking up. And I've only gotten this feeling one other time in my life, and just feeling the magnitude of these towers and just looking up at them and just being like, wow, humans built this, and it was a humanism element that carried my schooling, carried my effort, carried my hard work all the way to the opportunity 22 years later, where I had an opportunity to build a high rise near the city I grew up in. Jersey City's right across the river there. Mm-hmm. As you're entering into Manhattan, you look up. Most of the buildings on the near side of the river from Jersey are Jersey City. So it affected the skyline close enough to where I checked that box, and I was like, this is one of those things where it's a testament to fulfilling that dream, fulfilling those goals. And I had that opportunity. I couldn't let it down. So we were there for about 18 months, 20 months.
While you were renting in Laguna, or you moved back to New York?
Yeah, we moved back to New York. So after the rental during Laguna, we moved back.
But you knew you wanted to buy as soon as you were coming back, right?
Well, we didn't think there would be a comeback. So we had our kid, and we're like pushing him around Jersey City winter in this stroller, and we're not sure if he's too hot or if he's too cold. And we're like, this is stupid. Like, what are we doing? We can't go outside because it's too cold. We're stuck in this high rise that we're living in. And we just like looked at each other like, yeah, we're moving back. And it was at that point where we started house hunting, and we came out here for a weekend, and we saw this house, and it was maybe about $200K past where I wanted to be budget wise. And we said, let's put an offer in, and we did, and we got the place, and
Nice.
it was a dream come true, and it really spurred more opportunities,
That was a
taking that
duplex,
risk.
triplex, right?
That was just a single family home.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we jumped out there and we were like, hey, let's do this. And but to go back to the towers, really, that was you remember these moments in your life, and you're like, it inspired me to want to build. It inspired me to want to learn how to build these things. So I studied how to build these things. I went to school. I got my background in engineering, structural engineering. I actually designed them. I'm actually building them. And now we fast forward and you're like, wow. So the other, actually there's 2 more times where I felt that way. So I also went to, forgive me, I'm going to mess up the name of the tower, but Tokyo has a massive tower. I want to say it's called Sky Ridge. I can't remember the name of it, but it was this huge, massive tower. And I just stood up there and I was just like, I got goosebumps down the back of my neck. And that was the second time I felt it. And then this past summer, we took a trip to Italy, my wife and I and their kids, and we stopped in Florence. You guys familiar with the Duomo story of Florence?
No.
So the Duomo, they started construction before they knew how to finish the roof. And the initial construction was started and it sat incomplete for 200 years. And you talk about like humanism and the desire to believe that you can deliver something. And during that time, there was war and famine and all these things that happened. And eventually the Medici picked up the project, and then they became the sponsor for the completion of the project. And at that point, one of the Medici had seen the property incomplete for his entire life. And he built up the equity, built up the relationships to be able to afford the completion of the tower. And he saw it to completion. And I stood there in August and I looked up and I just thought to myself, man, this was built 500-600 years ago before they knew how to finish it. What a cool experience.
Hey, what was that spot in Barcelona they've been building for 200 years?
Sagrada Familia?
Yeah.
Am I probably butchering that?
That's right.
Yeah. That one's they're building for hundreds of years too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild to me.
I think they're getting close.
It looks nice.
I'm sure they've been saying that for decades.
Yeah.
Looks like a sandcastle to me.
That reminds me, I'm a voracious reader and self-help guy, but that reminds me of a quote that I read in a book where they're like, a classic entrepreneur is somebody who has the belief and the guts to just jump off the cliff and build the plane before they land. And I'm just like, oh God, ain't that the truth? That's literally the story of our business. We read a handful of books, a couple of mentors, but really not knowing anything and just making that first deal happen. And, but yeah, that's stop. That's the thing is I feel like as long as you stay in it and keep building the plane and realizing you messed up the wing, throw it and build another one, you'd be all right. But yeah, if you guys are ever thinking about starting a business, just know that statistically it won't work out for you. So don't. And if that deterred you, perfect. You shouldn't do it anyway. If that fired you up and made you angry and now you want to do it 10 times more, all right, you passed the test. Start that business.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to use that energy, we just opened a second office in Malibu.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. So wait, before the fires and all that?
No. So the fires happened, and this is around the time where we're like, hey, okay, we got to open a second office.
Right.
And we're looking for venues. We initially assessed having a second office up in Carmel by the sea, up in Central Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at office space and we almost signed a lease there. We were ready to jump on it. And I just thought to myself, my kids are young. And again, now this is the part of life where you have to change course. And no one ever told me this. This is just my feelings about it. I've changed course for the betterment of my family, for the betterment of my kids, for the betterment of my relationship with my wife. And these are the things that come to you as an entrepreneur. You get hit by the side, and yeah, you could continue to stay focused on your craft. And I could have easily gone and continued with commercial building and picked up another project with another, employer. But I made a decision. No, I'm going to be here for my kids. So we're assessing the Carmel as an option. And I evaluated, hey, I'll probably be required to fly up there for 2 days at a minimum every 2 weeks. Doesn't sound like much, That's 52 days that you're going to miss out of your kid's life. And
4 kids.
4 kids.
Yeah.
You multiply that by 4 kids, and then you look at the timeline that you have kids. And for my oldest son, it's another 11 years until he goes to college. Think about that. And I'm going to be willing to sacrifice that time with him now, not for me. So we evaluated it. I talked to my wife. We made a decision not to move forward with it. Right around the same time, the fires happened. Talk about signs from God. They're like, hey, you got to be here. You got to help rebuild these communities. This is what you do for a living. This is what you're good at, coastal, single
So you're going to
family
be up
resident.
there building,
Yeah.
rebuilding a lot of the homes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I hope Coastal Commission goes to shit on this, and they're going to try to stop all the building for like years.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope
Well,
not.
they take 2 years for permitting. You told us a story
Yeah.
about the glass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it is not the
Government
case.
moves slow.
Yeah.
You can tell we're bitter because we've been dealing with it now for a while.
Hey, to look on the brighter side, I think there's real evaluation that's happening right now to peel back some of these layers. I know right now it's just at the Fed level, but I think even locally, I think a lot of people are really looking to. You don't want to change places too much, all right? I could only look at the neighborhood I know, Laguna Beach, and we have a fantastic mayor, Alex Renagi, young, hardworking, committed. And I'll give you one brief synopsis to give you an idea. We just had our hearing for appointments to boards and commissions. So I recently got elected by the by our city council, and I got voted in to be part of the design review board of Laguna Beach. And that took time. Again, organically growing within a community, building good relationships, being a voice for positive things in the town. And in that hearing for the appointments, that meeting usually runs about 3 to 4 hours. It's a long meeting. Everyone has to give their presentation. Everyone tells the council what they're about, what their background is about. That meeting, because Alex is running these meetings, he's the mayor, was only an hour and 20 minutes. So this is the next wave of what's happening.
How old is this person?
I want to say
Probably
he's
in their 30s.
maybe late 20s actually. He's
Wow.
super young, maybe early 30s, but he's
Sure.
super
But just
young.
different generation. It's like, let's just go.
Yeah.
That's something I really like about Elon. I obsess over like guys who have been there, done that. Of course, he's a completely different level, but that's something he's very much about when he buys a company or starts a company. He's like, if you're not finding you're able to contribute value to that meeting or getting value, just leave.
Yeah.
Just go. Like, or just cut it off, shut it down. I'm like, wow, what a concept. Because so much of government and so much of classic business is these inflated
Formalities.
meetings
Yeah.
and a lot of unnecessary, and it's almost like this just busy work. It feels like work, but you're really not moving things forward,
That's right.
you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
that little bit of change that he's making,
Mhm.
and I'm sure he's doing it in other sectors, is going to matriculate
Yeah.
into savings,
Right.
time, financial savings, and everyone involved. Because in that one meeting, you have city staff that has to be present. All of those people.
Oh, you're paying people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Clean
So
it
even
up.
though it's a voluntary cause on my part with the board and the
Yeah.
commitment of time, for the city staff, they're getting paid. So if that meeting gets shortened from 3.5 hours to 1.5 hours, I mean that's 2 hours of savings that's going into our local budget.
Yep.
Which I appreciate. So a little bit of change here and there. We don't want high rises to all of a sudden come to Laguna Beach. I don't think
Right.
anyone would be for that. Neither would I be. I just think if you implement these positive changes and give people a pathway to get their approvals quicker, and you guys aren't sitting on the bench waiting for Coastal Commission for 1.5 years, I think everyone would be a lot happier.
Yep.
And you cut out those formalities of like, hey, yeah, this is
Yep.
our process. No, your process can be condensed to 3
Right.
meetings in 45 days. Let's do that.
Well, I hope your perspective, helps to change that for the better and does that. Makes it lean, makes it practical. And, that's something that I think any industry should experience. It's like a little bit of like, well, let's scrutinize this.
Yeah.
Can this be better? And somebody as a builder and somebody who's a resident, like, and dealing with 1.5 years of coastal, commission, sure you've got a lot of good say. And hopefully by the time I figure out how to make enough money to move to Laguna, I can ring you up and be like, hey, what's going on, Imer?
Hey, I heard you guys had a 36 unit or 39 unit. Is that right? Or 39 units?
No, that's in Florida, in which he's just a limited partner on, I believe. Am I right?
No, I'm a GP too.
GP,
Yeah, but
sorry.
it's like 2%. It's useless.
Hey, just exit. That's enough for a deposit. 3% right
No,
now
it's
for
not.
single family.
There's no equity appreciation for any of the GPs. So
Okay.
we probably won't get anything from it. But we'll probably return the capital, maybe 8 pref for the LP. That's it.
That's
Because
great.
it's a C property we bought in 22 at the highs on a 6 cap,
Mhm.
I would say, and it's still a 6 cap, and the NOIs hasn't gone up. So it's
What are your guys' general feeling about the market pertaining to multifamily? Because I'm always intrigued to have this dialogue, and I've got siblings that are principals of operating organizations, so
Mhm.
I get to talk to them from time to time and pique their interest and get a feel for it. Where do you guys see us in the next 6 months to a year pertaining to the multifamily market?
Well, the multifamily, we've already seen about a 20% discount already, right? Because of, there's no rent appreciation and the cap rates have been moving up slowly because of the rates the new people have to buy. So, I would say it's already on the low, but it's probably not the lowest. But I would say if you can get good deals, you should probably look into buying them. But it was a big frenzy when I was looking at it during the pandemic, and I kind of got tired of just running numbers and seeing 30 offers. Everybody's outbidding each other
Yeah.
by hundreds of $1,000s. So I just came back to just investing in our portfolio is 100% 1 to 4 units.
Oh, that's
Other
great.
than that,
Fixed rate.
Yeah.
We're a little squeamish around loose rates.
Yeah. I know you're
So-
you're probably very familiar with floating rates.
Yeah.
You're a builder, but I don't know if you get fixed rates or is it floating?
Yeah. So for my personal projects, I try to stay with fixed rates. With the duplex, that's the triplex now. We were able to lock in a 30-year fix.
No, not that. Your
Yeah.
your building career.
Yeah, well, the
Those
stuff
are-
you're building. The whole
Those are all
different-
floating, right?
For commercial.
Yeah.
So the way a commercial loan works, from my understanding through construction, the first whatever it is that they agree to in underwriting, whether it's 15 or 20% is coming out of the developer's pocket, and how he gets that money is his business.
Yeah,
But
you can raise
but
it.
basically from there, then they take on this construction loan, and usually those rates are 8, 10%, whatever they are now, and that's usually when the time crunch starts to kick up, because every month they lose, they're paying this big premium.
Mhm.
$100 million note at 8%. That's a big nut,
Yeah.
So every month that short ends, they end up really making a ton of money from not having to burden. So we had one really savvy developer, and Jersey, New Jersey's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Never been, so please
All
enlighten
right.
us on New Jersey.
So New Jersey, and I'll stay away from any ethnic guidelines or anything, but yeah,
Mhm.
that's where the mob was kind of headquartered, New York, New Jersey, and
Yeah.
there's still some little remnants of closed doors. This is the way we do business, handshaking. We've done a lot of those deals. So that one project in Jersey City, I'll mention to you how savvy this developer was. He ended up going directly to the concrete foreman, not the owner of the company. He went directly to concrete foreman because he knows that guy runs the job. The owner's doing paperwork, pushing paperwork, running numbers. The concrete foreman runs the crews. So at the start of the project, they start pouring concrete, and they're about 3 or 4 stories up. Again, it's a 38-story in Jersey City. And around the 4th or 5th story, he's like, hey, let me talk to you for a moment. And he's talking to Tony or whatever the guy's name was. I can't remember.
Of course,
And-
John.
Tony, come on.
and he says, hey, Tony, he's like, how are you doing today? He's like, good. He's not as good as you with that beautiful car you got out there. He's driving this, beautiful Bentley, brand new
Mhm.
convertible Bentley in Jersey City, nonetheless. Not the best place to drive a Bentley. I'd much rather drive it down PCH, but still, it's a Bentley. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I'll tell you what. You get that. You top out the concrete on January 8th. It's yours. He finished a week early.
Wow.
And he gave him the keys to that car. That's a savvy developer. So you got to incentivize good energy. You got to know the right people to talk to, and you got to incentivize good energy, because hey, maybe that $200,000 car may not make a difference in a $19 million contract,
Yeah.
but for this guy who runs the cruise, that was the world to him.
Yep. So Point is work with the mob, give them cars.
Mhm. And if
No,
you
it's-
don't give them cars, that'll be the last deal. You
That's
do.
right.
The fastest concrete production pours that I've experienced to date have been in Jersey City. And we were doing a floor every 2 days.
Is that because of the incentive program you're referring to, or like who's getting
It's all
cars?
the
Like,
Bentleys, man.
So-
I'll sign up
It's the
right now,
Bentley
dude. I'll
deals.
swing a hammer, dude. I'll pour some concrete.
So the way they sequence the concrete on a typical pour, there's 2 ways. So down in and I learned all these different ways in different regions I've worked in. So down in Florida, I'll give you an example. So you pour a concrete deck, that concrete deck hardens, and then you have to stress the post-tension cables in that deck, which give it additional strength. In order to stress those cables, the concrete had to harden to 3,600 PSI. So that takes time. So in Florida, they set up what's called shoring and post-shoring, which are the levels below the active deck that span 4 to 6 stories down below, depending on what deck you're on. And that basically is temporary support for the active deck, which is not cured yet. So in order to accomplish this, they have what's called a table system. So basically they'll take the tables from the 3rd level below and then move them to the upper level. So that takes crane time, and that takes time to be able to set up the new forms for the new active deck. And then you got to install post shores on that 3rd level deck below. So that's how they did it in Florida. So they would use crane time, which takes time away from other trades, and then erect and move the assembly. That took a whole nother day. In Jersey City, they would drop the forms on the active deck and build them on site the same day they poured. They would lay out electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. They would have the half, or if not the entire next deck ready to go.
And that's all to code.
And
That's all like proper.
It's all to code. It's all proper. The difference is you have labor, you have manpower that's a little bit more cost effective. And then they just had a system down that was more efficient. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So they literally had that next deck, and they were laying out electrical, plumbing, and mechanical penetrations on that deck that same day that they poured. So a different crew comes out, they do that layout, they do the decking after the finish work is done. And then they're pouring those columns that same day as well. So then you have this new active deck, and then you finish out the deck with the, you have the formwork on the perimeter. That usually takes a little bit more time. Then they have that next deck ready to go in 2 more days. It's incredible.
Wow.
Put the rebar down and they're ready to go.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just discovered the power of incentive. Really, I've been recently using it for any staff or any, we've got a little renovation going. And so it's not much, but we offer just a little cash bonus incentive, which is literally equivalent of like holding costs for the extra week. Like, hey, you get it done a week early, the money's yours. So we'll see how well it works, but to get our team to move fast, because it's holding costs. When it's vacant, we're technically losing money on it, at least on the cash side.
Yeah.
Appreciation wise, okay, maybe, but yeah. So incentive is powerful, and that's something that I've been really using as a tool for both businesses, and so far seems to be working. So, but no cars, not at that level.
Not yet.
No Bentley.
So what's next, man? What are you thinking next? And what kind of numbers your company is seeing now? You're from losing $130,000 to, are you guys in the millions now in terms of just money coming into the company? I know you have a lot of employees you have to pay as well.
Yeah. Great question. So we're definitely we're into millions. Without getting into specific numbers, I'll leave you with this. About 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, my wife and I were struggling to find a nanny for, at the time, was 3 boys and my pregnant wife. So 3 boys.
What's
and
A&E?
A nanny.
A nanny.
Oh, nanny. Okay.
Yeah, babysitter.
Okay. Yeah.
So she was working.
Sure.
remember
Vince
I
is
mentioned-
great with kids. For the record.
Hey, come on over.
Yeah.
So we
I
had
have
this
2
nanny
nieces.
who was great, but when the 3rd kid came along, she wanted a 2x pay raise, and we're like, whoa. It really like hit us. We're like, whoa, like what did we get ourselves into? And our kids are all young and they're all at home. And my wife and I, we like look at each other. We're like, this is crazy. So, it was enough, and we were doing well enough as an organization for my wife and I to look at each other and be like, she looked at me. She's like, I want to be with the kids. And I looked at her. I said, I can't ask you for anything more.
That's awesome.
Same like my dad, I can't ask you for anything more. Same to my wife, I can't ask you for anything more. You've done your part. you got us to this point. Our company can afford our lifestyle right now. And we put her on planned, work leave. So the last 2.5 years, it's just been our organization supporting our lifestyle in Laguna Beach. And we've been fortunate enough to maintain a life, and, we're not, going broke, but we're also just
that's
living,
great, though.
It's a tough
And
place.
she works
to
at
live.
the company too, or no?
No,
Okay.
no, she works from home, and she has the tougher job, I like to say. She
Sure.
helps manage the kids and
Yeah.
make sure they're fed and clothed and
That's great.
clean. And
I'm sure she's really getting a lot of
4 kids,
satisfaction
man.
from
That's
it.
busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 kids. I'm
That's a
good.
lot.
I'd rather do what you do, man.
Yeah,
Let me go
that's
build a skyscraper. You guys handle that, dude.
yeah,
easier to build a company than 4 kids for sure.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
my kids are great. We just had my oldest son's on, was it 2 days ago or yesterday? Yesterday they did a concert, and he bombed it. And the reason I tell you bombed it, he didn't even sing along. He just was spaced out. He's like, dude, get me the hell out of here.
What concert was this?
It was like a chorus concert for their school, and
Sure.
they all got up and they're singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and he knows the words. I know he knows the words because he
You
sings
got
it.
nervous?
He just wanted nothing to do with the chorus concert. So I was like, hey, don't worry about it, and he was pumped that I was there. He's pumped I got a chance. It was 9 o'clock. You talk about if you had employment, you'd have to take off from work, go into
Yeah.
PTO.
Mm-hmm.
But, being that I'm a company owner, I have the flexibility to go and see my son and spend time with him,
Yeah.
quality time with him.
That's the real win. That's
win.
wealth.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
So I know we've had you for long enough. I don't want to keep you too long, but I did want to ask you, since you're on the building side and you're seeing a lot of economic output and work going on, what do you see? How is the market doing, especially in Orange County in California? And where do you see it going with all the tariffs and the lumber price possibly going up and stocks and all that crazy crap?
Yeah, great question. So one of our projects almost got impacted by the Canadian tariffs. I'm not sure if you saw the headlines from today. I think they repealed them temporarily, but he told us it was coming, and he said if we place the order now, we won't be impacted. So we placed the order now. We weren't impacted, but that would have been 25% on a $40,000 line item for that one job. It was the Verco decking, which is the decking below the concrete decking for that surface. So that would have been a $10,000 impact.
$10,000 hit.
Yeah. So you look at some of these budgets. I mean, for that project, I think we're at $1.8 million construction budget. So it's not like a major impact to where it would be a limitation for that prospective client. And we're fortunate enough, like I was explaining with the equity piece of hey, we're building value for these clients. I don't think that's a determining factor. And the reason I can say this is during COVID, price of lumber skyrocketed up. I'm not sure if you guys remember.
I remember.
So everyone looks at it like, oh, price of lumber skyrocketed, like, oh, it can't build. And you start to evaluate how much is the cost of lumber compared to your whole remodel? And you break it down in percentages, and you start to evaluate it all right, the entire cost of lumber for an entire remodel is 6%. So if you can do $1 million project, a $60,000 $60,000 hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hit. Don't get me wrong, but that's the entire scope of the lumber. So even if that lumber were to
Double
50% increase, you're looking at $30,000. I think that's a manageable impact. Granted, no one wants to be on the losing end of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But because it's single family, it's not large quantities.
Sure.
Most of our costs come from labor. So really you were mentioning the rental rates stabilizing. It actually impacts us more than the material costs, believe it or not, because if rental rates stay steady, then our labor stays steady, and our labor has stayed steady over the last 2 years. I've noticed we're not seeing as many increases from our subs as we did during the years of COVID, where it started to run. Plumbers went from 95 an hour to 160 an hour. I mean, that's a real number. So really it's, you get involved and you start to see things, but at the end of the day, our plumber needs to make a living because he's got a mortgage or a rental that he has to pay off. And he's got these exorbitant amount of costs for these eggs, which, oh boy, don't get me started. I eat eggs, every 2 days. That impacts the budget for a family of 6.
I switched to oatmeal.
So that's excellent news, by the way.
What's that?
Excellent news.
Excellent. Oh, here we go.
Oh, the dad jokes
Don't
are coming
crack
hard.
me up.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm leaving.
Come on, Vince, let's go.
Where's Vivek? Yeah.
And then to get into like a local macro, we'll call it, like Orange County related, there is a huge shortage of single family residential. And you guys have heard of it for years. We've all heard of it. There's not enough homes to go around in Orange County. And we don't see that slowing down. And actually, we see the contrarian approach to what you're dealing with multifamily. With your rates being impactful, we see the opposite side of it. Because our clients got in with low rates, they're actually incentivized to remodel in addition to their home.
Right, just stay.
To stay. So actually our business is then the opposite of your business. We've actually increased the amount of builds. This past month, we've gotten 14 leads for new builds. I mean, that's a real number. And we're outpacing our annual average by double right now to date. So
What kind of margins do you guys operate at when you're working?
what type of,
Like, like if you're building for $100 and then does it cost you $89 or does it cost you like $5?
Yeah, great question. So we don't put a margin on our cost to our clients. All of our costs are presented, and then we apply a fee.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So what kind of fee do you charge? Just like a 5%, 10%?
So for it depends on the project, but it can range anywhere from 15 to 25%.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. So then it's like just upfront.
It's very upfront.
that's
Just
nice.
very transparent. Like, this
Yeah.
is what our fee is.
Yeah, it's honestly,
great.
for that standpoint, it makes it for a much easier relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the clients really trust you. I
Yeah.
mean, like we're
I mean,
in
a
business-
general contractor charges 10 to 15%, to be honest,
Yeah.
just
Right.
to run the project.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys are above general contractor, right?
Yeah.
You-
Yeah. So some general contractors, they get a little creative with like how to tuck that number in. And we don't like that because they're saying like they have full-time supervision, and it's really not full-time supervision. We don't do that. We tell our clients, we're saying, all right, we have this project manager just dedicated to these 3 or 4 sites, and we're going to split their costs between those sites. And a lot of our clients really love that because they understand you don't need 24/7 supervision on a single family residential. For one, there won't be someone on site 24/7. That's just the
Right.
nature of the industry. And then 2, what are they actually doing?
Right.
Checking quality, which is what our project managers will do when they're on site meeting with clients and assessing. So we're fortunate enough as like our fee applies to our office. That applies to like our overhead. So
Right.
general liability
Yeah,
insurance.
it makes sense. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then so you said it was 1,000 to 1,500, somewhere in that range,
For
based on the build?
Yeah, for building, you're looking at between 600 and 1,000. So we just finished one maybe about a year ago. Now, the overall addition remodel cost per square foot came out to about $650, and that was like on the lower end, which was very competitive.
And that includes your fee? The 20
No,
Okay,
No,
so
that does not include
okay,
our
so
fee.
then you add the 25% on top of
yeah,
that. Got
yeah.
it.
For that one, I think we got into it for 15%,
Oh, that's good.
and I probably wouldn't at this point in our established career. I probably wouldn't take on a project for 15%. It's
Mhm.
just there's so many costs. Licensing, insurances on our end where like people don't see it, workers' compensation,
Yeah, for sure.
you name it. I mean, we have office space, we do advertisement, we sponsor great events like this next week. We are sponsoring the Laguna Beach Mayor's Luncheon at the Montage. It's a every year event. This is the 3rd year of sponsoring it. And that's just a level to give back to the community, but it's also a level of like, hey, we're here. We're the established player
And do you
here.
get leads from those kind of stuff too?
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. So most of our money doesn't really, it's not so much net margin. It's
Just a fee based.
the fee goes to a lot of other things for sure. Yeah.
It's great that you're transparent, though. I think there's something to be said about that. Just being upfront. Here's what it is. Here's our services. Not sneaking in things. And oh, by the way, like, because we've all dealt with that, haven't we? So I think that's really a winning model to deliver a great service. Be transparent. It's like, we're not cheap, but we're going to do a great job.
Yeah. And then the flip side with our clients, like we really want to build a personal relationship with them
Yeah, of course.
in hopes that sometime in the near future, hey, it's Laguna Beach. All of our clients are wealthy,
Yeah.
just in some form or fashion. I don't think they're like Scrooge McDuck wealthy, but they're very, very wealthy people. I mean, you compare it to the global population, they're in the top 1% of 1%.
Mm.
And we establish a relationship with them on a personal level. And we believe in these people and they believe in us and we want to deliver for them. And that relationship's just going to mature and grow. We've got about 3 or 4 past clients that are coming to this mayor's lunch on our behalf to be ambassadors for us and basically be a part of our team and then join our table. And, for me, that feels great. Just being able to have them as part of our community and, be ambassadors for what we've done and what we're going to do. And you look at Laguna, 7 years before we started, look at it now. It's transforming. It was a beautiful place 7 years ago. Don't get me wrong. But as we remodel these homes and build these additions and get everything all brand spanking new, I mean, you can see the transformation.
More money's flowing in, huh?
Yeah.
Where are your residents coming from for Laguna?
We've had a lot of transplants because of the tech boom and then
North Cal?
The work from home. We've had a lot of people from North Cal, San Francisco, New York, and other parts of California. But I would say, most of the money that some of our newer clients, it's tech money or it's just legacy money. I mean, oil people and,
Yeah. And it's the last stop before San Diego, right? Like a big place. Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you guys are, but maybe the listeners might not know, but Laguna Beach is this 7-mile strip of beach. And there's homes on either side of Pacific Coast Highway. And the homes maybe go about 1,000 yards in either direction, give or take. And behind that, there's this massive nature preserve. In the 70s, there was a developer, I'm sure you've heard of him, Irvine Company, that was looking to develop some of those properties. And the community got together and they were very environmentally associated. And they said, you guys aren't building here. And they got together and they boycotted the proposed development and they won. They put it to a vote. The city voted against major developments. And that's why Laguna is preserved to this form and fashion in this day and age. Whereas all the other cities surrounding Laguna have continued to, expand their envelopes and maximize their footprints and do all these things. But this group that's still around, Village Laguna, you probably may or may not have heard of them. They're still around today. For 50 years, they've been around the community. They care about the preservation of what's there.
I love that.
It's amazing.
Are they the ones that do like the what is it, the forum thingies, whatever, the meetups where they have a bunch of vendors come out? Is that them?
Village Laguna is a environmentally associated organization that basically gets together whenever there's these big pushes from developers to advance their developments, and they've been very successful. And I give them massive amounts of credits. And, it's kind of why is a builder saying this? Like, you're probably like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds weird coming from a builder, but you look at what's in Laguna and what makes it so special and what can derive us, 2,000 a square foot home price range. It's because you have 1 to 2 story homes. You have walkability, you have proximity to the beach. You have this great community of people who care. And they actually love the place.
Great restaurants. I love the art scene there.
Everything. Yeah. Artists galore. You have just these legacy families that have on the
Skyloft, White House. That's all Laguna, right?
Yeah. My Sapphire is my favorite.
Mozambique's
great.
Yeah.
Mozambique is my secret. Please. I'm saying on the podcast. That's out there now. I love it.
Man. Anything else, Drew?
Man, I honestly could keep talking to you just about Laguna for another hour and a half, but out of respect for your time, I think he's one of these guys. We got to do a round 2 for sure.
Thank you.
See how things go. I'd love to follow up with you after the Malibu thing starts to, develop. I'd love to catch up with you, see, talk shop about fighting the city and maybe not, catching up with that and
catching waves. I like to call
catching waves.
We go along with the city and we make their job easier.
Difference in permits and building was LA County versus Orange County?
A little bit of a different approach. Pertaining to the fires right now, I think the big hurdle is getting through this Army Corps of Engineers cleanup phase 2.
Yeah.
Phase 1 has already been completed in some of the locations. That was like for the toxic batteries and things of that nature. But this phase 2 is essentially you're on this, FEMA sponsored program through the Army Corps of Engineers, and they're responsible for clearing your grade. So they sub that portion out. So that's the federal government that's subbing the portion out to the subcontractors who are specialized in this cleanup. And they basically go through every site and clear the grade. But the timeline associated with that right now is about 6 to 9 months, depending on where you're at. And
just to get through phase 2?
Just to get through phase 2. And you can simultaneously get your permits approved. And they just passed the first permit approval on Friday. So not a terrible timeline, 2 months. And
that's not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, not bad for a rebuild. So
I'll be surprised if they build anything this year.
Yeah. No, they won't be complete. That's for sure. So that once that phase 2 is cleared out, so we have some, wealthy clients that aren't going to wait for the Army Corps to clear out. They're going to do the demo themselves, and we've given out a few proposals for that work. If they do that, they might streamline. They might save 4 or 5 months by doing it themselves. But yeah, once that's cleared, then you're going to have the people who sell. And I don't know if you guys have checked the market up there. There've been a dozen or so listings just this past week of people that just want to
just
exit.
the land.
Yeah. And there's been deals. I mean, look, I look at it from my perspective here in Laguna, and I understand the market there in Malibu, not as to the same level, but a similar level. There was a property that was listed for 1.8. They had a guest, like an ADU and a pool, and the main house burned down, and they're listed for 1.8. That's a deal. It's got this huge skyline of a view.
That's coming with the land?
It's coming with the land.
And the ADU is intact?
The ADU is intact. So you might even be able to underwrite it depending on the lender if you can just claim you can live in there, or the pool house or whatever it was. But you look at these things and you're like, man, if I only had 1.8 million, but I don't. But if
the bank's loan on that kind of stuff, like how does that work?
Hey, if you sell your house, it's 2.69.
I'm close.
Yeah, you're very close.
Moving to Malibu now.
Yeah, but if the opportunities transpire, I mean, we're definitely game to get involved, personally. But if they don't, that's okay. We're still there to solve a problem, which there's going to be a lack of quality builders, and we're going to be solving that problem, and we're going to be a part of the solution.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And how do people get in touch with you, man? You on Instagram or anything?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, empressbuilders.com. That's EMPRESS builders with an S.com. Or just Empress Builders is the handle. Sorry, I'm not up to snuff with the new gen stuff. So.
Do you work with the normies like us, or you just work with the ultra high net worth?
You are not rich enough, sir. I already know the answer to that.
Yeah.
What's the cheapest bill per square foot you've ever built? You're doing somebody a favor. You're like, okay, I'll
homie hook up. I did his podcast once,
and I'll put gray LVP. Well, this loser guy.
Well, if you're doing multifamily and I say there's always a pathway to the right budget, but if you're doing multifamily and you're actually building ground up type 3 construction, so just wood framing, and you could get it down. You could get it down to between 180 and 220 a square foot. I
was right with the 200, dude. I got him.
Right on. He knows his numbers.
Do you have you ever worked with Mikey Taylor?
I have not.
You know him? Mm-mm. He's also like a builder. He used to be he's also joined the council thing. He's up in LA, but he's also built, and he does new builds, apartments only in California only.
Oh wow, that's great. Yeah, I'd love to meet him. Yeah, happy to have the conversation. Again, that's my past life. I don't really do much single family or multifamily production build.
That's cool.
But I know how to do it. Yeah. And I have the local contacts. We've done 2 projects in downtown LA. So these are people that I've done business with before, subcontractors and vendors. But it's a different world. It really is a different world. Yeah. You have to really be dedicated to that craft. And right now, the craft that I'm dedicated to is custom single family residential. And it's been really, really good.
Sounds fun.
Us. It is.
That sounds fun.
It
is satisfying. Like, yeah, we just did
this
thing.
You ever work with any of the HGTV guys, like Tarek El Musa, anybody? The guys from...
I'd love to work with Tarek. I think he's a friend on...
600 for square feet for sure.
I think he's a friend on LinkedIn, actually. So I'll have to reach out to him.
I'm trying to get him here. He keeps saying he's busy.
Yeah, actually, one of our window reps, integrated doors and windows, I think they were featured on a few of those episodes. I'm not sure what show, but they were featured. And also a real estate agent we work with, in Laguna was also in selling Orange County.
Yeah,
I think the open episode.
Oppenheim Group.
Yeah, not Oppenheim. She was with the seller's agent at that one deal, but super savvy, super sharp individuals. I mean, you got to run with A players, right? So,
yeah, you got to do it, man.
and she's definitely cream of her crop. And we've grown together as organizations, and we feed off of her energy, and hopefully she can feed off our hours. You know,
Oh,
trying
yeah,
to
man.
make it
Well,
happen.
thanks for coming in, man. We're
Thank
trying
you
to
very much
develop-
for your time, brother. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate you guys. I love what you guys are doing on your podcast, and would love
Thanks,
to be on again. Happy to be
Yeah,
on.
we'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
And we'll change the floors before we.
We might not.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know about you, but I definitely like to see 5-star reviews on any service or any product before I purchase. Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review, whether you're listening to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or whatever platform. Take a second, goes a long way, helps us a lot to grow the channel, and thanks for listening.